Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today I've got an ink video for you. The two inks we're going to take a look at. I've got Diamine Sargasso Sea and I've got Diamine Ruby Blues. Let me see if I can get that the right way around for you. I'm hoping that shows up on the camera. There we go, there's a bit of light on it. The Ruby Blues, that was from last year's Inkvent calendar, 2021's Inkvent calendar. And the Sargasso Sea, that's just a normal bottle that I bought. Join me now, down on the mat, we'll take a look at the inks, we'll do a writing sample, I'll give you my thoughts about them. So here we are down on the mat with our two inks that we're going to look at today. I've just brought the bottles in just so we can see them. So the Sargasso Sea, this is a 30ml bottle. There we go, 30 millilitres. I've had this ink quite a while and it's one of the blues that I tend to reach for. The other bottle, Ruby Blues, there we go, 12ml. This was a bottle that came in the Inkvent calendar. The one thing I would say with this, I struggle to fill pens from this bottle. It's just so small. So what I try to do is use it with pens that I can syringe fill. Let's take a look at the inks themselves. We'll start with Ruby Blues. We'll go alphabetically. So here we go, Ruby Blues up at the top. There we go. Hopefully you can see this. I'm trying to wiggle it around. We've got a gorgeous blue background, but there's a heavy amount of red sheen on this. Fortunately, I must have got a bit of liquid on this when I did the actual sample of this. But we can just see here the blues. You can see the blue coming out more here in the writing. And again, you can see a little bit of that sheen. I quite like this. I've got a number of inks which are very similar to this, blue with red sheen, and I've usually got at least one pen inked with one of those inks. The other ink here, Sargasso Sea. This to me, it's a bit more on the purple side of blue. I've not seen the Sargasso Sea, so I can't say how close it is. One of the things I will say, you can actually see here on the card, when I first got this, I was forever referring to this as Sargasso Sea. I don't know why. Thankfully, somebody pointed it out, so I've been able to correct that. And I do try and make sure I use Sargasso Sea now. But we can see here, you know, we've got that purpley blue background. And I think it's hard to see, but there is an ever so light sheen, and that's why it looks more on the purple side. It's got that bit of a red sheen, but nowhere near as much as I see with the Ruby Blues. I'm going to turn these over because I've got some chromatography. What I do with my chromatography, when I do it, I draw a line along the bottom, then I dip the paper in water for about 15 seconds, and then take it out and just put it to one side to let it carry on doing its stuff and to dry. Look here though at the chromatography, very, very different. We've got a lot of the purple here in the Sargasso Sea, certainly near the bottom, and it's quite pale as it's going up. Then when we hit the top, that purple, that turns into dark blue, but we've got quite a wide halo of pale blues there. Here though, with the Ruby Blues, we've got, I would say it looks like it's pale grey near the bottom, but only for a short amount. Then we go into increasing saturation of blue. At the side, just this one side, we do have a paler blue there as like a halo. Yeah, quite nice. I do prefer the Sargasso Sea when I'm writing with it, I've got to be honest. It's more, I don't want to say it's complex, but to me it looks a little bit more interesting. Now I know on these cards, on chromatography, it's not really that much you can see because it's just a blotch of colour really, isn't it? What matters is writing. So let's fetch in the notepad of testing. Here's the notepad of testing. This is an A5 notebook. This is Optic paper by Oxford. There we go. This is actually made by Black and Red is the name of the company that made this book. I really like the Optic paper. Start of a new book as well. Always nice to break a new book in, isn't it? The pen I'm going to be using for my writing is this. This is a Serendipity dip pen. It's got a broad Yoho nib on it. I try to standardise on this pen for all my ink tests. just means we've got like for like, so it's easier to compare. So the first ink we're going to look at, as I say, we're going to go alphabetically. This is Ruby Blues. Let me see if I can get that. There we go. Got some light on it now. Open this up. I say it's a teeny tiny little bottle and it doesn't even fit inside my ink pot. So I'm going to be very careful. Just going to dip the pen in. Hopefully we'll get some ink on there. There we go. So I've got here Diamine, Ruby Blues. Oh, going to have to re-dip the pen. Let's try again. There we go, Blues. This is one of the issues I find with these dip pens is sometimes I don't get enough ink on the nib. This was 50. No, it wasn't. This was 16. No, yeah. 16 Aussie dollars for a 50 milliliter bottle. I don't have a 50 ml bottle. I've just got a sample, but I did check the price out. So we'll put there, that's for 50 mils. The pen, Serendipity, dip pen, drying times, so immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. So after a minute, it's still very, very wet. Now remember, I've dipped the pen, so this may not be indicative of what you get going through your fountain pen. I will show an example later on in the video of using a fountain pen. Let's write a sentence. I do like writing with this ink. It feels really well lubricated. It flows well off the nib. As I say, the colour got that nice red sheen. You can start seeing that coming through here on the top lines. As this dries, we should hopefully see a lot more sheen coming through the sentence, which we'll look at after we've done the next writing sample. Just going to step away and give this nib a clean so we can look at the next ink. So I've given the pen a good clean. Let's move on to the second ink. This one is Diamine Sargasso Sea. There we go. This one does fit in my ink pot holder, so I'll pop that in just to minimise the chance of Gary being clumsy and knocking it all over. Give the pen a good dip. Wow, that got a massive dip in there. Now, off the camera, what I'm doing, and I know you can't see this, and I do this with all the pens, I'm giving it a scribble just to take off the bulk of the initial ink load. Why I do that is I want to make sure that I can try and get the colour of the ink as close as possible, as if it would come out of a pen. So we've got here Diamine Sargasso Sea. It was expensive. It was $4 Australian. That was for 30 millilitres. If we look at the first one, that works out at 32 cents per millilitre. This one, I've smudged it, this works out at 13 cents per millilitre. The pen is a Serendipity dip pen, and drying times as immediate. Actually looks wetter, doesn't it? 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. You know, it definitely looks like it's wetter than that previous ink. Let's write our sentence. We go. Another ink feels very well lubricated. I'm going to move this notepad out of the way to give the ink a time to dry, and I'm going to fetch in some 52 GSM Tomoe River paper where I've already done some writing samples using a fountain pen. So here we are. This is a Gale and Leather notebook. I love this notebook. It's what I use for all my writing tests. Got loads of different ones in here. This is one of the things I actually do like, is I do occasionally flick through this just to see, how the different pens and the different colours of ink look. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to look at this. So the pen that I've used is a Tobaldi Bononia, and it's got a steel nib and it's a broad. It's a nice Italian pen. So we've got here Ruby Blues. Let me just see if I can catch the sheen on here. I hope that's coming through on the camera. See a nice sheen coming off that. I find it very difficult when I'm recording to see the sheen because my lights are so bright. But usually over the camera we can see some nice, look here, main threads. We can see some nice sheen coming through. Just going to move this up. So coming from an actual fountain pen, it's not as wet as it was from that test pen with the Serendipity. So we can see here, I do a hash, then I do a hash, and straight away do a swipe. Same with the little scribble, and straight away I do the swipe. Whereas we look on my test here with that Serendipity pen, you can see here the swipe was at least twice, if not nearly 3 times as long with the Serendipity dip pen. Let's go over the page. So here we are with the Diamine Sargasso Sea. Again, it's the Tobaldi Bononia. Helps if I have that in so you can see it. So again, let me see, is there any sheen? I can see a little bit up here where I've got the Tobaldi Bononia. I don't know if I can catch that on camera. Let me just try getting a few different camera angles. Looks like there's a slight bit of a red sheen on part of that. Rest of it, I don't see much in the way of sheening. Where I might see it here, this is where I do my line variation. So the first 3 lines is no pressure, the next 3 there is some pressure. And again on there, I can see little bits of red sheen coming off. My swipes, even on this paper, it looks like it's a wetter ink. We're getting nearly twice the distance of the swipe. There's the Ruby Blues, there's the Sargasso Sea. Right, let's move this out and fetch back that optic paper. So hopefully this has now had time to dry. As we can see, this top one, just look at the sheen. That's coming off in spades, isn't it? Virtually every letter there has got a massive amount of sheen, apart from Ruby, where there wasn't a lot of ink on the nib. If you look at the Sargasso Sea, again, not really that much in the way of sheen coming off. Maybe bits there in the word Diamine, but not really enough to really say that has definitely got sheen in it. So what do I think about these inks? I do like them both. As I said in the intro, I tend to use the Sargasso Sea more often than I do the Ruby Blues, but that's because I've got a number of other inks similar to this. So I do have a large bottle of Jack Frost, which I tend to use quite a lot. Quite like this one. Haven't pulled the trigger yet on a large bottle because, as you can tell, 12 milliliter bottle, and I'm still going with it, so it doesn't get used that often. I think the pricing is quite interesting. I do think that the Ruby Blues, I think because it's an ink vent ink and it's in them larger bottles, I think there's a little bit extra charge for that. 32 cents a milliliter versus 13. You're talking nearly 3 times the price, definitely 2.5 times the price. So that's a big price difference. And these little bottles, I've had this about 18 months and it's still going strong. I like the colour. I like that the Sargasso Sea, it's got a little bit of the purple look to it, whereas with the Ruby Blues, when you're looking at it and it's flat, it just looks blue. Yes, you've got the sheen. I tend to use the Sargasso Sea for normal day-to-day writing. I try to keep the ruby blues. They're really used for things which are a bit more special, things like cards, where you like that little bit of extra oomph to the ink. So they're my thoughts on Diamine Ruby Blues and Diamine Sargasso Sea. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these inks? Have you got either of these inks? I know there's loads of different blues from Diamine. I've got quite a few of them already. What are your favourite blues from the Diamine range? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.